Okay, Maryam Jannah, what is your original name?
My original name, I was born with is Shirley Steele.
Shirley Steele. And where were you born? In
I was born
Australia?
in Scranton, Pennsylvania, USA.
Oh, Pennsylvania. It sounds like Australia. Okay, I'm going to try to turn this phone off. Okay, because otherwise someone will call us, interrupt us. Okay. Where you born again? For in case we cut this part.
I was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and my birth name was Shirley Steele, Steele.
Oh.
My father was Scotch, and my mother a combination of English and American Indian.
I don't know whether you still hide your birth year.
Oh, I don't hide it.
Okay, what year was it?
My birthday in year and month was October 22nd, 1922.
1922. Oh my gosh, you are only about 3 years older than my father.
Really?
He was born in 1919. Yeah, and that's very interesting. And then what brought you to Tucson? Before Tucson, what did you do? If you a little bit tell us about just in general.
I was a nurse,
Okay.
and during World War II, I went into the Army, the Air Force branch of the Army, became a flight nurse, and they sent us to Japan. We were to evacuate patients from Korea, South Korea, to Japan, and then, of course, back to the United States. I didn't anticipate it, but I met a guy over there. We married.
Oh, you met an American there. He was
Yes.
soldier?
He was a pilot.
Okay.
He was a pilot in the Air Force, and we married, and then, of course, came back to the United States, and that union lasted 10 years, very unhappy 10 years for both of us, and 4 children, and but I ended up in Southern California.
And then, well, that means in 1940s,
We
you
were
married,
divorced
45?
in 1956.
1956. Since then, you didn't marry?
Yeah, I've been married twice since then, unfortunately.
And then you kind of discarded them too?
Well, the second proved to be an alcoholic. If
Oh,
I
yes.
had had my eyes wide open, I would have recognized it, but I didn't. And so that lasted 6 terrible years, and which left us in quite severe penury. And I decided I'd never marry again till I had my children raised, maybe only then. So when they were raised, I did. I met another fellow who seemed very, very nice, and turned out that after we were married, I found out he too was an alcoholic. He wasn't drinking anymore. He was a dry drunk, they call them.
It has some residues.
But he had an alcoholic history and the alcoholic personality
Okay.
that goes along with it. They're very, very, very controlling.
Okay. And since
That
then,
lasted
means,
a year.
And oh my gosh, that means since then you are not married.
Since then,
And last
I
week,
am happily single.
yeah, when you were 90 years old, a few days ago, last week, and then I said, well, let me put a advertisement, what's called an ad to find someone for you, a new husband, friend. Perhaps you are not looking for anyone.
I would run so fast
But,
in the other direction.
I can assure you that it will not be a pilot, nor an alcoholic, or recovering alcoholic. You may have another chance.
I am not interested.
And that's great. I want to
Anyway,
start with few things before to kind of see what you know about our world and what about things what is this? What do you call this?
It's a Phillips head screwdriver.
Oh my gosh, you know even the head of it, Phillips head screwdriver. Okay, and what about this?
That that holds a roll of toilet paper.
Aha, that's great, and you have even better names than me.
Odd things you have picked out.
Yeah,
for
what
me.
about this one? Okay.
I think this is one of those little self-generating flashlights.
Yes, self-generating flashlights. What about this one? First
Oh, that's a cute little toy engine.
toy engine. What is on top of it?
Oh, for Pete's sake, you've got a hazelnut on top
Well,
of
you
it.
know, even hazelnut. Hazelnut is not very.
That's a cute little engine.
Yeah, it's cute. Even it moves.
Very cute little
Yeah,
engine.
it is
Where
locomotive.
did you find that?
Well, I found it in Michael's, and then I put a nut on top of it. Hazelnut. In Turkey, is very common. Northern Turkey.
Are they?
Yeah. Lazların şeyi.
A little airplane. I have
fındık.
flown.
In Turkish, we call this fındık. And what about this one?
Well, it's a helicopter.
But it's not a killing helicopter, correct?
It's a regular, yeah, it's a crazy helicopter.
Do you have any names for helicopters? What helicopter?
Furious palm trees.
Go on. What
right.
do you know any brand name kind of names of helicopters?
Can't think of one offhand.
Apache, like this one? Yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
Okay.
Kinda
And
like
what
the
about
name.
this one?
Oh, that's one of the little levels. It's a little for level and plumb.
Okay, very good. And what about this one?
Oh, I've used those many. I have those anyway. Sure.
Let me see.
No, that's not where you do it. You do it down here.
Oh, really?
It's a reflex hammer.
You don't have reflexes.
You're hurting me.
You don't have reflexes.
You're hitting my artificial knee and it hurts.
Oh my gosh, really? You had artificial? I never knew. And what about this one?
It's a washer for something.
Oh my gosh, washer.
A hose
She got
washer.
this one too. Washer.
You must think I'm dumb.
No, what about this one?
Well, it's a lid to a bottle.
You know,
Never
I have
more.
bottle lid collections. If I have a collection in the
Do you
drawer,
have any other silly
in garage.
things in there?
Few more things left. Let's see whether you can know. This is a little bit ambiguous.
Well, let me see it up close. You might use it to blow bubbles with.
That's a good one. And,
If it had some holes along here, I would say it was a...
oh, the tighteners kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is kind of, they use it to mix
Oh, it's a
something.
stir.
Yeah, stir.
yeah.
And what about this one?
Well, let me see it. Oh, that's to go on electrical connection.
Oh my God, you know even manly stuff. Aha, you won't know this one.
It's a chess piece.
Chess piece. And what's the name called? Do you know this?
That
one?
I don't know.
That's called pawn. Okay, pawn.
Okay.
Yeah. And two more.
That's a bolt.
Bolt. And bolt needs what?
A nut on the end of it.
Okay. And what about this one?
Well, you've got me on this one. I don't know what that is. I simply do not know. Interesting
This
looking
one?
thing.
Yeah, very interesting looking thing.
Yeah.
You see. This
Use
is
it for-
this is hard drive of computers. It rotates on this. There is a magnet here, very powerful magnet too here, and it is beautiful bearing. When it rotates, is
Well,
about
I never would have known that.
yeah 7,200 per minute. 7,200
That's
per minute
in the hard
rotation.
drive of a computer.
Yeah, in a hard drive
Amazing.
of a computer. Yeah, it's incredible stuff. But I am kind of the technology of it, the manufacturing of it, besides the theory and the design, but making it so precise, and the distance between the reading head and the disk, hard disk or any disk, is closer than 100 times more than the thickness of hair. That much close, but
My
it's floating.
goodness.
Because it is far, it cannot read the small grooves there. In order to be able to read it, must be close because they're very small, microscopic. But if it touches, it messes up.
Now, I can ask you where it was made, but I think we both know.
Okay, let me see.
Made in China.
That's right. She knew this. China.
Well, it seems like everything we look at is made in China.
And
Everything we use.
no more. And two more things. These are pictures. One is this one. Let's see what she thinks about this one. And one is this one. And first I show you this one. What is this?
Arupad.
Check her sense of humor.
10 days in Europe. Edip Yuksel.
And what do you see?
It doesn't look like a very good picture of you. Your face is not long like that.
Well,
I
Maybe
don't know what this is about.
Okay, what this one? What I am
Oh,
on?
you're on a camel.
On a camel. Beautiful
Yeah.
eyes. See the eyes. 90 years old. Eyes as good as mine. She doesn't need even eyeglasses.
Well, anybody can see a camel with or without glasses.
My wife would not see it. And what about this one? This is
Well, you
this
showed
one.
that one already.
No, this
Not
one I
to
didn't
me.
show you.
Running like zebras, just like your book.
And
I counted the letters of. And they're
Bismillah.
always okay, according to my
according
beans.
to my beans. Yeah.
It is sometimes 20 and sometimes 21.
Letters.
You both are correct. I'm sure you both are correct. I'm sure it's not 19. Oh my goodness.
Fantastic. Okay. And let's
Now that you
continue.
have-
And
you put everything back in the box. You might miss something in the
don't worry.
in
I am going to.
in the pattern of the rush.
Okay, question. Okay, we are continuing the second part. We learned that her birth name was Shirley Steele with E in the end, Steele double E. There are 3 E's in her last name. And she married 3
I
times.
have had so many names.
And her name now, I know her as Maryam Jannah. How do you spell your first name?
Maryam. I will tell you how I got that
Okay,
name.
I would like to listen.
My last
and-
name is spelled Jannah.
Excellent. Maryam Jannah, I know her since 1990. We met in Masjid Tucson. And,
No, darling, 1994.
oh, really? We met in 1994.
At
I thought
ICS.
1990. ICS. And we have been doing Quranic studies together in group, small group, and she's one of them. Therefore, I told her that we'll have an interview talk about certain things, about the past, about present, maybe about future. And yesterday I read a statistics about American households. Average households has about 400 books, including magazines, not really much. Average household has average American kid has 139 toys. About 3% of the world population, the kid population, 3% of kid population. About 40% of the toys they have, toys of the world. And we have 40%, we manufacture 40% of weapons, basically. We spend 40% of the world military spending. Now, the question is, when you were a child, did you have so many toys?
No, I didn't have very many toys at all. I was a child of the Depression years.
Oh,
My father had been a builder, quite a prominent builder in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So when the Depression hit, he was one of the first to lose his business and all the land that he had bought that he was going to build homes on. So we had very little money to spend, and certainly it didn't go on toys. In fact, I remember one summer, the summer that I started first grade, we lived in a 9-by-12 tent in some stranger's apple orchard. Excuse me. So there was no money for toys. I sort of made do with making up your own games and things.
I see.
Since I didn't have any brothers or sisters, I was on my own there too.
The same with me. When I was kid in town, we were not in the city. We were in a very rural area in Turkey, Bitlis and Norşin. And I remember I didn't have plastic toy until age 6, 7, I remember. And my father went to Istanbul. Yeah, I was about 7 years old. And then from Istanbul, through someone who would come to the town, once a while would send some gifts. My first plastic toy, I remember that time, it was a little cat that had a tail. When you wound it, it would kind of roll, move and roll. That was. And
I do remember a toy. I do remember a doll. My mother had a wealthy cousin, and who traveled a lot, she and her husband. And she sent me a doll, a felt doll from Italy,
okay.
who I immediately named Gloria after a little neighbor girl of ours
Playing with
who was
Gloria.
Italian.
Okay. And then
That's the only toy I remember. Absolutely.
Very, very good. Yeah, and then another toy was a little kind of box, and you push the bottom it inside in circle. There were kind of scenes from certain movies. You would watch through the lens.
I see how young you are. You had plastic toys when you were a kid.
Yeah.
That makes you young.
Well, I didn't have early 7 days. Perhaps in Istanbul they would have. But I remember in those 7 years, we would cut the watermelon, the skin of the watermelon in circles, make wheels and the piece rectangular, and put them together with sticks, make car, truck,
my
and then pull it with things and many similar things. We had our imagination. I would sit down on a
I think
big,
that's good for children that don't have a lot of money.
Make your toy and
Make
be
your
happy,
own.
enjoy it, and then sit down on the rock and imagine I am driving a truck. I was truck driver on top of volcanic rock. Anyway, now I wanted to let you go, but once in a while I may interrupt you. I am a little bit, distracted, attention deficit. Keep me in mind, as you do. Now, my gosh, you have 90 years old. Tell me something, certain interesting things in your life. Maybe start with your name, why you change your name. Then we go forward, backward in time.
Okay.
Yeah, change me. How you end up changing your name?
Well, I changed my name because I
Shirley.
became Muslim.
Mhm.
And
As you know now,
at that time,
Yeah.
I was told, there were many Saudis, many Pakistanis, many students at the university who were from other countries. And, you must change your name if
to
you
an
embrace
Arabic
Islam.
name, as if Islam
You
has
have
anything to do
that's
with
right.
Arabic
So,
nationalists.
so I didn't choose the name myself. I embraced Islam in 1963 when we lived in Southern California,
Okay.
the San Fernando Valley. And then
What led you? What led you to accept Islam?
I'd been not looking for, but hoping for some religion to come my way that I could believe in.
Mhm.
All my life, really. I can remember one time, I can't remember much from my childhood, but one incident really stood out in my memory, and that was, I must have been about 4, give or take a year or so, and I was sitting out on the grass with my father in our front lawn, and he was telling me, I remember it was a beautiful sunny day, the grass was green, there were bugs and birds and bees buzzing around, and it was just lovely, and he pointed up to the sky. God made the clouds, the sky, the sun, the moon, the bugs, the ants crawling, the birds that fly, and he made us. And I remember just thinking,
Go ahead.
God must be so wonderful.
Yes.
God who made us, made everything. I would love to know that God. Well, my father was a very, very religious man. Really, I'd call him a fanatic. So through the years, then the Depression came. We moved to Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware, and that's where we lived in the tent one summer. And we went to church every Sunday and prayer meeting every Wednesday night to some church or other. He liked to go to different ones. And pretty soon I began to think a little bit about, I never hear the word God spoken. What's with that? I don't understand why I don't hear the word God. Because all I ever heard was Jesus.
Really?
And I thought that was really strange. So about the time I was 8, I was beginning to do a little thinking for myself.
Very interesting.
And,
Very early age.
And we went to different churches, but the one my father liked most of all was the, what do they call it? It's Assembly of God now, but it used to be...
Seventh-day Adventist?
No. Began with P.
Presbyterian?
No. Anyway,
Prohibition?
they called, their nickname was Holy Rollers.
Oh, I love it.
Because they would, I remember seeing
Pentecostal?
Pentecostal, that's
Pentecostal.
right. I remember sitting in the seat with my mother on this side and my father on that side, on the aisle going down beside my mother, and then another rows of seats on the other side of the aisle. And I remember a woman going on her knees up to the pulpit in the front of the church. Jesus save me. Jesus help me. Tears running down her cheeks. And this was a horrible thing to me. I was just stricken.
Yeah.
Literally. I wanted to get up and leave, but of course I couldn't do that with my father, the religious fanatic, sitting right beside me. And I didn't dare ask him why I didn't hear God talked about, why it was just Jesus, because he was a very severe, punitive man too. And I knew I would get whipped if I asked questions. You didn't ever ask questions of my father. So I just kept my mouth shut and endured the churches, but I figured someday, somewhere along the line, I will find God in one of these churches or whatever. And then when I left home to go away to school and ended up in nursing school, one of the girls one Christmas Eve wanted to go to church, as Catholics like to go to a long Christmas Mass. She couldn't find anybody to go with her, and I thought, well, I'll go. I don't have to work the next day. So we went. It was a 3-hour service, but at least it had some dignity. There were not people crawling up on their knees and shouting and sobbing and yelling. It was at least it had some dignity. So I thought, well, that's nice. I like that. At least
They're not rolling on the floor.
they're not rolling on the floor. They didn't say much about Jesus or God, one or the other. They just swung the incense and, didn't have much to say. So that left me sort of puzzled, but I let it go at that. I didn't ever go back again until I went into the Air Force and eventually got engaged to a fellow there who happened to be Catholic and said, "You've got to marry me, you've got to be Catholic." So I took all the classes, the catechism classes, and I became a Catholic. But most of it didn't go down very well because I just couldn't believe in it.
You couldn't digest all these
could not
dogmas,
digest it because
contradictions,
It got into
silly
the
stories.
Jesus thing again,
Yeah.
so it didn't wash with me. But I just let it go at that. And when I was married there in Japan to my first husband, we were married in the Catholic Church.
Why did you have problem with Jesus or making Jesus both human at the same time and God at the same
I
time?
had a problem with Jesus generally.
Okay.
It just didn't sit well at
It
all.
seems kind of exaggerated.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I didn't see a place for him. I
Okay.
didn't, if Jesus was everything, where was the God who had made everything?
Absolutely.
Didn't
Good.
make a bit of sense to me. So I let it go at that and just went on with my life. And then in 1963, I was working at Kaiser Hospital in Southern California.
Who was president at that time? Do you remember? American president, 1960.
Kennedy.
Oh, really? You're right.
Kennedy.
Yeah.
And there was a social worker who came out from the downtown Kaiser on referral from time to time. And we were all puzzled by the man because the doctors deferred to him so much. They just, really seemed to look up to him. A lot of respect, and that was not usual with a doctor and a social worker. So he came out to see a patient on referral from one of the doctors. And again, we just noticed the interaction between the patient and the social worker too. And he was a black fellow. I got very curious about him. On his third or fourth visit, he came out. He had seen, I guess, several patients that evening because he stayed over and went to the cafeteria. I made sure that I went to the cafeteria at the same time. Wanted to find out something about this person. So I may I join you? And I sat down at the table and we got acquainted and we got to talking, and he was not reluctant at all to talk about himself.
Yes.
And we eventually got around to religion and told me he was a Muslim, one of the black Muslims of Elijah Muhammad. And
Are you serious?
yes, I'm very
You
serious.
end up introduced to Elijah Muhammad's Tainata Muhammad was that time?
Elijah Muhammad was the leader at that
Tineta
time.
Muhammad.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Okay.
And so he told me about Islam. He told
I
me,
met her because Tineta Muhammad came to one of the conferences
and
we
maybe
had.
one
His
of
wife, maybe, yeah.
or a daughter, granddaughter, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
At any rate, I found it very interesting, and it just began to settle over me, just like Cinderella's slipper. It fit. It just fit because he talked about God.
Yeah.
He talked about God and didn't talk about anything but God.
Interesting.
And that was just what I had been looking for. Not looking for, but hoping for.
Mhm.
So there it was. That was it.
Wow.
And he didn't say a thing to me about, now you've got to change your name. But he did give me a couple of the copies of the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, which came to me every week. He subscribed to it for me, if you please, for a year. And in it there were advertisements for
Do you have any pictures with him? Did you take any pictures?
No.
Okay, very interesting.
Uh,
You met personally Elijah Muhammad?
Oh, no.
Okay, with the guy.
I was never allowed near a mosque in those days.
Really?
My skin was not black. I was the
I
wrong
can't believe
color.
what a contradiction.
I was the wrong
Now
color.
it's getting exciting. Now
But
you ended
when
up
I
with
told
this
him, When I
racist.
told him that he wanted to know about my family, when I told him my mother was, who her father had been an American Indian, and he saw that my eyes were very dark brown, which they were in those days before they faded to a senile gray.
Mine is as much as gray as yours.
And my hair was very dark brown in those days. And
For the sake of your hair, perhaps they
so he
accepted
began
you.
to think I had some black blood in me, maybe. You know, that was the way they thought. That was the
my
way they
God.
thought. That was when he started giving me the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. Well, it was very interesting.
And they were supposedly reading the Quran,
Oh, absolutely.
verse
So in
49,
there,
chapter 49, verse 13, or many other verses.
I know.
Despite that, yeah.
Well, supposedly I don't know how much of the Quran they read and really read and
Yeah,
understood.
yeah. But that's
And
good.
I don't know what translation they read.
It became a stage for you to go forward.
Yeah, well, anyway, like I say, I couldn't go to the mosques at all. And eventually he stopped coming. I think he was injured or something. But he stopped coming to Kaiser. And, there were advertisements in the Muhammad Speaks newspapers for Islamic clothing and, Qurans and such. So I did send for a Muhammad Ali translation of the Quran. And it came, and I read the introduction, and one there footnote, it said that you could work your way out of hell. And I thought, that doesn't sound right to me, so I just closed it and put it aside and didn't read any more of it after that. I left it at ICS in the closet. It's over there somewhere, presumably, unless somebody took it home with them. It was lovely leather bound. Anyway, we moved from there because I wanted to get my children out of southern Arizona. There was too much drugs and alcohol. And moved to the Navajo reservation where I took a job as a public health nurse.
Wow.
So that Muhammad Speaks newspaper came to me every week up there. I don't know what they thought about that paper coming. I never asked, and they
Navajo
never said.
reservation, a white woman from Pennsylvania.
You're getting a Muslim
Getting
newspaper.
a Muslim, not only Muslim, these are not Muslims, these are racist.
Well, there were
Mixed.
there were many articles in that paper that Elijah Muhammad wrote that were out of the Quran.
Yeah, confused, kind of. Very good stuff.
Yeah, but
mixed with-
they were absolutely from the
Very
Quran.
good, very good.
And so you couldn't put it all down, but some of it
Yeah.
was so silly
Yeah.
that just beyond. I'll tell you, sometime it was beyond belief. But anyway, then one January, the last January I was there would have been January of 1968. It was my custom there in Tuba City as a public health nurse to take home the charts of the patients I had visited that day at home with my driver interpreter. Take them home with me. You're never supposed to take them out of the record room, but I had to because it's the only time I had to write the progress notes in the charts. So after dinner, after the dishes were done, I'd get out my little trusty typewriter and put the charts on the dining room table beside me and type up all the notes from my visits that day, 7 or 8 of them. And put the charts back together and pile them there on the table to take the next day. This one particular night, as I got up to turn off the dining room light and finished, I was tired, it was about midnight. Just as I reached up for the switch, it felt like something was just around me, just loving me. It was a very loving feeling. And at the same time, this word came into my head. I have never heard that word before because I never read that Quran I bought. I never heard that word before, but I seem to know that it was me. It was Maryam, and I seem to
Interesting.
know how it was spelled.
Wow.
And that's how I came to have this first name.
Beautiful.
And I never told anybody about that. I've only told 2 or 3 people,
Mhm.
maybe 4, in all these years. And I did not change it. I did not take this name until 1975. I changed it legally, December
Okay.
18th,
Wow.
1975.
Oh, you remember the date too.
And I chose the last name because Jannah, as I understood it, was the Arabic word for heaven
Yeah.
or paradise, and that heaven was what Islam has been for me.
Okay. Beautiful. And when did you meet Rashad? Just briefly.
Well,
Rashad
when
Khalifa.
when we came to Tucson in June 1968, bought a house and went on with my usual. I'm still getting Muhammad Speaks, but I think about that time I stopped my own subscription to it, and then Elijah Muhammad died at some point, and it was in somewhere in 1975 or 4, and Warith Muhammad was chosen to take his place, and I got on the telephone book out and I looked to see if there was a Muhammad's Mosque here in Tucson, and sure enough there was one on South Park at 29th Street. So I called him up and someone answered the phone and said he was the imam there. And yes, I'd be very welcome to come.
Yes.
And when they had their meetings and so on and so forth, and how I was to dress. So very shakily, that was a Friday night that they had their meetings. Very shakily, I drove down there on a Friday night, and the parking lot was jammed with cars.
Mm-hmm.
They must have called every Muslim that had ever been close to the mosque in the whole of Tucson, Pima County maybe. They had all come out in force to see this white lady who had the nerve to come to their mosque. Because
Really?
now Elijah Muhammad was dead and white people were welcome.
Wow.
And it had been announced that white people were welcome. So there I was, and they put me in I went first into the office. The imam and his assistant listened to my story, which I have just told you.
Oh, after him, Wallace Muhammad came.
Warith.
Waris Muhammad.
Warith.
Yeah, he's the one changed a little bit, opened up to white people.
Warith.
Okay. Oh, Warith.
Warith
Yeah, Warith
Muhammad.
means inheritor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I told them the whole story, and then they took me out. By this time, all the people had come in. The place was jammed. They put me in a seat right smack up front, just as far front as I could go, and gave me a form to sign, which was a shahada, a written shahada. But of course, it had the nonsense Muhammad on there too.
Muhammad is
But
not
he-
nonsense, but next to God.
Well, next to God.
Yeah, you meant
That was the nonsense
they
of it.
stuck to God. You left Christianity because
But
they were
I signed it anyway.
Yeah,
I signed it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a scene.
yeah,
So I signed it, and that was it.
yeah.
And then I went there for the next 2 or 3 years until Lori and her sister came 2 or 3 times to there as well. And they told me there was a mosque opening on Euclid and 6th Street.
Yep.
And why don't you come? So I did. And that was the end of the other mosque was dying out anyway because the people felt if they were going to have a white woman come there, they didn't want to go there anymore.
I can't believe that.
Believe it. Believe
wow, this is
I
incredible.
killed that.
That means white racism also created black racism
That's right.
as just
That's right.
as racist as they were.
It's as sick as it can get.
I can't believe that.
It's as sick as it can
Okay.
get.
For the next section, before that, I want to a little bit look at some places here. Some of these. What is this beautiful artwork here?
Whose is it?
Afsane did that.
Oh, you remember Efsane?
Efsane did that.
Wow, she's now in.
I love that cat.
Very beautiful done. And you have something else here.
Oh, that I made.
No way.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
It was a little advertisement in a magazine.
I love
A
that.
medical journal.
Yeah, you put them
Of a
together.
peacock with tennis shoes on, and it was so silly.
Yeah.
I thought I've got to do that.
I love that. This is, and it is look like three-dimensional stuff.
Well, it is. Yeah, it's a real feathers there.
Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. And what is it?
Little woodsy.
What's called embroidery? No, no.
It's a peacock.
Peacock. Yeah. Fantastic. And then let me see what else you have. Do you have any funny stuff, good stuff? Oh, I am a very
Funny stuff? I don't
amateurish.
think so I bought those. I had those bookshelves made in Peshawar when I was there.
I want to see. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, this bookshelf from Peshawar?
Yeah.
I can't believe
you see
it.
how they inserted brass wire into the edge of the shelves, every shelf and down at the bottom.
Wow, I
It's
really.
amazing work.
You
And this
brought-
table here too.
This one?
Yeah, it's good brass work all over the top of it.
Okay, very good. Now the question is, what books you have here on your table? I'm curious, but what are you reading now?
I have
Because
this is a book called "The Unbearable Lightness of
Ca-
Being."
can I see the cover?
Sure. It's not a book I would recommend to anybody.
Oh, really?
It's kind of a silly book.
Okay. What else you have on your thing?
I have here John Milton's Paradise Lost,
Okay.
which I want to reread. And this is a book on the Maya,
Oh,
which I'll get
fantastic.
to eventually.
And what is there under the phone?
Under the phone, there is the Quran, and under that,
Whose translation?
it's Rashad's translation.
And then under it?
Under that, there is the Catholic Bible.
Fantastic. You have very good. Okay. I want to stop
I'm not
this
a book
one.
collector. I don't have a lot up there.
Well,
because I
you are
don't-
better. You don't.
I pass them along. I recycle them.
Okay, take care. I'm going to stop here and then we are continuing my interview with Maryam Jannah, whose birth name was Shirley Steele.
I don't think I would answer.
I am
to that if you
the
called me.
basically recorder, interviewer, and producer, and also distributor of this video. One person stuff. There already you will have kind of this kind of amateurish stuff. Now, from the beginning, if you follow, she just celebrated her 90th birthday, and I have known her since 1994. She reminded me the year, incredible. She has much better memory than I have. I am always surprised and impressed by her memory during our Quranic studies, weekly Quranic studies. And Maryam, what year we started having women leading the prayer? I think that time Martha Schulte was also among us for a while, shortly. And
I
what
don't
year?
know
Was
what
it
year.
1998, 99?
That might have been in
Yeah.
ICS, or was it in Master Tucson?
No, it was in our when we separated
ICS.
from
I don't
ICS.
remember.
Oh, 1995 we left. 1998 we left. I
We
think in
left in
1999 we said why
It would
not
have been
women lead the prayer.
1999,
Yes,
yes.
1999 I remember. And did you lead any prayers, any khutbahs?
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. That's
I've done a few clippers.
yeah, but recently she is not doing much, and I hope next week you can give a khutbah
No.
after tomorrow.
No.
Okay. Now, she a moment ago she told us about her experience in Nation of Islam, and she said her presence after Elijah, you call him Elijah Muhammad died. Waris Muhammad took over, and this guy had more open mind regarding accepting whites, and initially they were very racist. And then she's able to go to the mosque. Initially she joined them, but without participate in their congregations. And then she goes there. She says still there were some fanatic, racist, black so-called Muslims there, and then they left the mosque, and they basically lost the congregation because of her.
Totally lost the congregation. The place closed down.
She was a white bomb there. I love it.
I ruined it.
Oh
I
my God.
felt badly about that.
Yeah,
I did.
that's really interesting.
Because that did give some cohesiveness to the black community.
Well, yeah, it
You
was
know.
good, but they needed to experience. They need to get over that racism. Racism in any
Yeah.
shape, form is not a good thing.
No, it's not.
It is,
It is not.
That is basically evil. And I want to just hop to where? And to our time, right now, we can go back again, Maryam. Now, I want you to tell me, what do you think the major... first of all, which president... did you watch their debate last night?
Not last night.
Oh, the first debate did you
The
watch?
first debate I watched, it made me very sad and very upset.
Yeah,
Almost sick.
why?
Because Obama didn't speak up. He seemed to have no interest in it. It's just,
Yeah, there was like a spell on
it
him.
was terrible.
Yeah, he was not agile, he was not
Just-
following.
Just jotting things
Jotting-
down and maybe squiggles. I don't know what
Yeah,
he was doing.
this guy was attacking and
It was
making
awful.
lies.
Just
Yeah,
awful.
and
Last night I didn't watch for the simple reason I couldn't bear to see a repeat.
yeah, I watched it. He did much better. Therefore,
That's
he
what
got
I've
kind
heard
of a
on the-
warning.
That's what I've heard on TV.
And that means from there, I assume that if you vote, you are going to vote for Obama.
Oh yes, I will.
Yeah, the question
will.
is,
Not so much for Obama as not for Romney.
aha, I love that too. And in fact, I voted for him, but I'm reluctant to vote for any of these two parties.
I feel the same way. but
Yeah, the
more-
third party,
go
I
with-
think this country needs more, several other parties.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, we
Yeah.
do.
I say this, Maryam, and
This country needs a whole lot of things. That's just one.
yeah,
That may be the beginning. I don't know what, but we need a whole lot.
yeah. Well, I didn't know, Maryam, so many years we meet each other that would be voting for Democrats, though we talk. I think that few things in Islam, in the Quran, that is clear that a society must care about the poor, about the widows, about orphans, about the homeless. If a society do not care as a whole about these people, that society is an immoral society.
But
according to the
the
Quran.
society has to do more than care. It has to act on that.
Act on it. Absolutely. And as roads, we cannot do independently, just make the road in front of our house. It will not create a very useful road. Some will be bumpy, some places it will not have at all. And as kind of for defense, we have common military, correct? Well, it's not defense, we call it defense, it is aggression right now,
Yeah,
what we are doing,
it certainly
unfortunately. But if really a country, a righteous country will have a military to defend themselves against aggressor, not go bomb other small countries around the world. And also, we have certain things as a nation, we do community. And therefore, I do think taking care of the poor should not be personal, you can do individually, but as a society, we should be able to create a national insurance as a whole, as a nation,
Absolutely.
for basic necessities of life. I cannot understand how a person say we are a great nation while we have so much in our kitchen and stuff, and there are people who are hungry, suffering. In this very country, I know from my own neighbor that lady, both of them single in their 30s.
If
Both
we
of-
ever,
They were hungry. They didn't have meal to eat, and we are feeding them. And sometimes we buy grocery. I take them groceries and stuff. Sometimes we share our food. And this is United States. And one of them is working. In fact, two jobs cannot kind of pay rent
Yes,
and other
yes.
stuff. Hardly make. And he has some also health problems, unfortunately. Is not taken care of. Could be taken care of easily if he has some health insurance. And the woman is on disability. She has some diseases too, and this is incredible. Now, question for you: what do you think? Compare this time, United States people and stuff, and the years of back, certain year pick, maybe depression or afterwards. Or let me tell you something. I had certain deprivation from certain blessings, like in prison, in Turkish prison for 5 years, from certain blessings. Therefore, if I have a place without guards, without police, without soldiers, I am very grateful for the freedom I have in this country, for example, because I was there as a political prisoner. Therefore, certain things when you are deprived since childhood, you appreciate those things when you even grow up. And when I was kid also, we didn't have much income. My father was very dignified scholar, well known, respected, but he would never accept money.
Proud.
He was very kind of, he would teach and stuff, get little money from
He
that.
was proud.
Very, honorable man. In fact, I remember once we were basically barely making ends meet. We had about 7 kids and stuff, very little meager income. Every penny would count. I believe my mother was the one, poor mother, illiterate, she was the one who was budgeting supposedly. And at that time, in that need, from Saudi Arabia, some people from Rabitatul Alam al-Islami,
Yes.
Rabita they call. And it is basically the evildoers really in Saudi Arabia. They are very evil. After the Iranian Revolution, they went around the world, Muslim world, so-called Muslim world. They started purchasing basically scholars, religious scholars from Sunni things in order to kind of create a front against Iran. Because there were sympathy and a lot of admiration towards the Iranian Revolution among very religious segment of population in Turkey and many other countries. And Saudi Arabia, together with the United States, basically, they found that this is dangerous for them. Iran would take over and cause the animosity, hostility between Shiite and Sunnis will get eliminated, and that's not they could play. Therefore, in order to create that gap, to separate them, to kind of promote hostility against Shia and, of course, against Iran, they started purchasing. And my father was one of the top scholars. I remember still, I was in the room, usually guest comes, very prominent guests. I would serve them coffee and stuff and sit and listen to them. And they offered my father big money, in fact, it's just a gift of the king of Saudi Arabia. That time I think Faisal was the king. What I'm talking, this was about 1970s. 1980s. And after 79, basically 1980 I believe, the year. And then my father did not accept. That time we were really in need.
Good for your father.
My father was the one who, I remember few other scholars, they were purchased and they became mouthpiece of Saudi Arabia, and one of them I know well, his kid became very rich because of some trade deal with Saudi Arabia. He's now a millionaire in dollars. Anyway, but I now appreciate when I was a kid, when I was going to school, I remember I had very little money to buy food, to buy snacks. I would be hungry sometimes. And therefore, I don't waste food. For example, my kids leave some rice in the bottom, so I say, eat all the molecules. Do you know how many molecules are there? Each grain of rice is like the other. Don't put more than you can eat.
That's right.
And therefore, I'm kind of a little bit more caring about the waste of the food or water and all kind of things.
I've had that same experience in
What
my
do you think?
childhood,
Oh, really?
which left me feeling very much the same way.
Beautiful.
You know, putting food on the table during the Depression was just awful. There just was so little money, and my mother made it stretch as far as she could, but there was just no work for my father. I remember that when when Hoover was elected, one of the first jobs my father was able to get was to help build the stand, the platform for the inauguration.
Wow.
That was income that was desperately needed.
Yeah, therefore I think at this time there's so much abundance, and children, I see them waste everything.
Well, it just shows the falsity of capitalism.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, and capitalism is
Resources
a terrible thing.
Yeah.
My father was a real strong socialist, and the more I look around me, and as the years go by, I think socialism is the way to go.
Yeah,
I really do.
yeah.
I see much more good out of it than bad.
Absolutely, but the problem with the socialism of Russia, they couldn't integrate it with freedom, kind of
That's
with
right.
democracy. That was the problem.
It was a
political
suppressive
problem.
socialism, yeah.
Suppressive, dictatorial. If we have the ideal of socialism, like I think is more closer to in northern European countries like Sweden, Finland, I think.
Yes.
Holland,
Scandinavia.
Netherlands.
Yeah.
Yes. What was it?
Scandinavia.
Yeah, Scandinavian countries, I think they are much closer to what the Quran
Yes, I think so too.
promotes.
I've
Yeah,
thought that for a
I
long
have
time.
the same
Uh-huh.
thing, and
Yeah.
therefore, I hope that this country we will realize that there's so much incredible gap between haves and have-nots.
Well, it's capitalism has become so evil. It's generated such selfishness. It's generated many more problems than we can even handle anymore.
It's also external,
I'm afraid it's going to take a revolution
well,
to change things.
perhaps
But
because
maybe that's
they own corporations, multinational corporations. They have no also
and
loyalty
now
to American people too.
corporations are now people.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is one of the worst Supreme
That's
Court
right.
cases. And then they own the media because media is fed by the corporations, owned by the corporations. Basically, the gatekeeper of the information
Right.
and news
That's
spinning.
right. Absolutely.
And two parties serving them masters. Both parties, unfortunately, served Wall Street.
That's right.
Democrats may give some lip service, but you see Wall Street guys who caused this recession stuff, they were the one became advisor. And none of them end up in prison, the biggest thieves
It's
in this
terrible.
country. And now they own politicians too, especially Supreme Court case.
The Koch brothers.
Oh, Koch
Oh,
brothers,
Romney.
they are the
Yeah.
ones, unfortunately, using
Owning
$400
the
million
Republican
they
Party.
used for Romney to support
Yeah.
400 million. And the Supreme Court case, one of the worst, I think the top worst case in the Supreme Court history was recently, maybe 1 year, 2 years ago. You remember that one about campaign finance? There is no limit.
Yes.
Citizens
Yes.
united.
Yeah.
And, well, no limit. Corporations, individuals can give as many, even anonymously. Anonymous means...
That's where Jesse Kelly is now working. He's working for Citizens United. Remember, he was the one who challenged Gabrielle Giffords in the election a year
Oh.
ago.
Oh,
Jesse Kelly.
oh, really? Very good.
He's
But
now working for Citizens United.
I know, but this case, which is Citizens United versus what, they lost. Citizens United
Good.
lost.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Oh, no, maybe not. Maybe I'm taking, I don't know. I thought Citizens United were against. I don't know exactly the details of the case.
They're
I know the
corrupt.
holding.
They're
Okay,
corrupt.
then Citizens United won in that case because Supreme Court sided with no limitation for individual or corporate things, and they could come up as super PACs. Okay,
Yeah.
now I see. So that means
Yeah.
Citizens United is not good.
Not
Okay.
good.
Yeah, I don't know the parties, the name of the parties, but I know the issue, I know the holding. Okay, and it seems kind of, I cannot believe 90 years old, but she is an activist. As occupying movement, you should discover
I
this
wish I could
lady.
be more physically an
Ah,
activist.
inshallah, you are impressive.
My kids have always teased me I was born too soon.
Tell me about recently you gave us something, what was it, microwave holder? What
the
do you
microwave?
do? Yeah, you did microwave holder, how many over
A
there?
friend gave me a set.
Yeah.
She said, "You have a piece of scrap material?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Give it to me, and I will make you a little microwave pot holder set." So I did. And when she brought it, I thought, that is the handiest, most useful thing I could do. So I dragged out every bit of scrap material I had. I think I made something like 80 sets.
My
80
gosh, you
pairs.
could make sushi at this age.
Well,
It's
I've been,
incredibly
I've
productive.
been giving it.
I wish we could sell it somewhere, become a capitalist.
Apame has a bag full of them. She took to work.
Oh, okay.
So she's selling them.
Okay.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
I took the other bag I had to hospice and gave them. I also made them for, of course, all my family.
Oh,
and
you
all
go
my
to
friends.
hospice to help volunteer there?
Yeah, I volunteer there.
Difficult place to
Tuesdays
volunteer.
and Thursdays.
Really?
I don't work with the patients anymore.
Okay.
By
Tuesday,
choice.
Thursday. Okay.
I work in the office now.
Okay, fantastic. Wow. Okay, this will not be our last thing. We'll keep interviewing. I will open a kind of, in my channel, a section for you.
Okay.
And we also, after watching these sections under it, please put any questions you have for Maryam, and we'll collect those questions next time.
Who are you going to share this
I will
with?
share with the world. You have nothing to hide. There is something, you didn't give
I
any
have
government
nothing to hide.
secrets.
At
Come
my
on, you didn't give any
At my
government
age,
secrets.
who cares?
No, yeah, that's good. But maybe there is out there a 92 years old, very kind of great mind.
I'm not cooking and washing and cleaning for anybody anymore.
Who said that? He will cook and wash for you. We're not looking for someone who will have you as a servant. You will be the queen. That person will serve you. Inshallah, over there, I don't know whether there is. It's very difficult after this age to handle Maryam Jannah. She is very good in fighting. Okay. Do you have any last thing to tell us?
No, I don't have anything to contribute, I guess.
You contribute a lot, and I love it. And okay, hopefully next time I will come up with some questions.
Okay.
I didn't prepare for this, and
Well, you seem very prepared.
really, do you think so?
Yeah.
Well, I prepared a box, but
Positively, positively.
now the fan. We got the picture of the fan. Now the issue is, I got this box, the things in it, within last minute while I'm way to the car. Therefore, is it preparation? No, it's not preparation. Within a minute, I picked up those things. Okay, and nice talking to you, Maryam.
And you too, Edip.
Salam alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Again?
Yeah, I want to see.
Ground has just turned purple.
What is the name of this mountain over there? Do they have name?
Catalinas.
Catalina Mountains?
How do you keep your car so clean? Do you wash it yourself or take it to a car?
To the washer.
And
But
pay,
if you want, I can. Yeah,
pay
I
all
can.
that money?
Yeah, well, we don't put perfume on it. We just basic washing. And
Yeah, that's enough pictures, Edip.
yeah,
Just
this is.
cancel the
You
photograph.
have a palm tree here. This is.
That's a blessing from God. That came up. It was a volunteer.
This one, really?
Yeah, there was
So
a little
nice.
green thing that came up one day, and I pulled it out. And then it came up again, and I pulled it out again. It came back, and I said, "What the heck? I'll just let it grow and see what happens." And that's the result. It's a
And
date
this is
palm.
well
It's a
trimmed.
date palm.
Yeah, very
Well, they
beautiful.
come-
Oh, really? It gives date, but it's not edible ones.
No, they don't. They
Yeah.
aren't fertilized because
Yeah.
there isn't a male to go with a female.
Oh, really?
And they prune them. They trim.
They
the
have
back
male
every
and
June.
female,
Yes,
like
of
others.
course.
You know
Yes.
these things.
Oh, Edip.
Fantastic. You talk like a farmer. I love it. Okay, Maryam, nice meeting you, and hopefully this Sunday we'll meet. Is it celebration of your birthday, 90th birthday?
So I'm told. I think it's very sweet of them to do that.
We should have surprises for you.
Oh dear, no surprises.
Ah,
No surprises.
okay, take
You're
care.
not going to show this, I hope.
This one? Why
Yeah.
not? There is nothing secret about that.